Many thanks to fellow Extraction Squad, one of the original DayZ servers, Clash Vanilla servers, Sergeant Pepper servers, Sea of Doors Cloud, We That Remain Roleplay, the Struggle Community, the Karma Crew servers, DayZ Curriculum Leaderboards, and Dots for making this video possible. DayZ 1.27 has changed the way that chemical, food, and heavy metal poisoning works now, so in this video we're going to be looking at all the changes to sicknesses in DayZ this patch, how poisoning is now tied to our immune system, and why you should stop eating rotten food completely. One of the bigger disease changes this patch is how the blood on our hands from skinning or crafting rope from guts can now give you multiple diseases. For example, if you prepare a fish with a knife, like last patch, you will get blood on your hands when you're not wearing gloves, but in this patch, this blood will give you food poisoning if you eat or drink with them, not salmonella. And also, instead of getting salmonella from the blood of skinning an animal, the blood on your hands will contain food poisoning and it will contain salmonella, so you will get both of these diseases if you eat with these hands. Heavy metal poisoning has also changed, but the only changes this patch is to how quickly this sickness will develop on your character over time, with it being much harder to get full-blown heavy metal poisoning from snow now. However, when you do get the final deadly stage of this disease, which will kill you in 40 minutes, it will now take longer to cure using chelating tablets. Food poisoning and chemical poisoning saw the biggest changes this patch, though now developing much faster and takes far longer to cure due to them now being tied to the immune system of our character, as stated by the developers in the 1.27 blog post. The last part of the sentence about the player battling its symptoms is actually the immune system battling it instead of it decaying at a predetermined rate last patch. To give you an example of this with food poisoning, eating a full rotten apple would give you 8 minutes of food poisoning when your first hunger, blood and health are full. So when you have full immunity, it will last 8 minutes with one rotten apple. However, when these stats are low, it would take 36 minutes to cure food poisoning, so that's quite a big difference. Comparing it to last patch, eating 4 rotten apples resulted in just 90 seconds of this sickness. To put that into perspective, depending on your immune system, food poisoning now lasts 21 to 96 times longer in this patch. This is only the case when it comes to fruits, vegetables and mushrooms, as the unknown food can is exactly the same as it was last patch. You will get the same length of disease with one huge change. In 1.27, the unknown food can will no longer give you chemical poisoning, but instead will give you food poisoning. With this change, instead of losing a monstrous 450 energy and 300 hydration every time you vomit when you have the unknown food can, you will lose just 70 energy and 55 hydration, which is around 80% less, which is the same amount you lose from vomiting from food poisoning. However, this is not because the unknown food can gives you food poisoning instead of chemical poisoning. It's because chemical poisoning and food poisoning are now exactly the same sickness. The only differences between food poisoning and chemical poisoning now appears to be absolutely nothing, so let's just merge them both together and we'll call it toxic poisoning instead. In the last patch, getting toxic poisoning made your character vomit immediately. Before the icon even appeared, you would lose 70 energy and 55 hydration. Now in 1.27, you won't vomit immediately, and in fact, you won't vomit at all if you don't go into stage 2 of toxic poisoning. However, consuming any amount of rotten or burned food, drinking gasoline or eating or drinking with bloody hands will give you this sick icon instantly in this patch, which is when you start stage 1 toxic poisoning. In stage 1 there are no symptoms at all and you only get this sick icon, but when you go into stage 2 you have a chance to vomit roughly once every 3 minutes on average, which is higher than last patch, and you get this short vomit animation seen here. If you insist on consuming even more toxic items, you will get up to stage 3, which is when you will vomit once every minute on average, and it takes longer for the vomit animation to finish, and during each of these vomits you will lose 70 energy and 55 hydration, so it really does add up, and your stamina will be drained, and you will become exhausted too, which gimps your stamina regeneration for a short time too. Now, even while you're guzzling the gasoline, your immune system is fighting against the toxins that are making you sick, and if you stop consuming this item, you would decay those toxins at 1 times the speed when you're low stats. So when these 4 stats are low, that's 1 times the speed, but when they're all maxed out, that's 4 times speed. So you can lose this toxic poisoning 4 times faster with higher stats. This means that yes, multivitamins will help you decay toxic poisoning 4 times faster too, allowing you to remove toxic poisoning faster. Alternatively, you can use charcoal tablets, which doubles the decay rate of toxic poisoning no matter your immunity, meaning that charcoal tablets plus full immunity will allow you to get rid of toxic poisoning in your system 8 times faster than the rate of having low stats, making them much more useful this patch. On top of this, the amount of times that you vomit also determines how long toxic poisoning will last, as vomiting will instantly remove a chunk of these toxins from your system just like it would in real life. It's not a huge amount, and in this patch each chunk removed when vomiting was nerfed by 25%, so it means that less toxins will be removed each vomit this patch. Now all the info I just mentioned applies when eating rotten food, burned food, doing shots of gasoline with the boys, eating unknown food cans, and eating or drinking with bloody hands. They all cause the exact same sickness, but all of these have different toxicity levels, which means that gasoline will progress you through these stages a lot faster than eating a rotten apple. How much toxicity fruit, vegetables and mushrooms have was massively increased this patch, making them much more toxic than last patch, so do be aware when eating rotten food. For example, you could eat a full rotten apple and not get sick in the last patch. Now, depending on your immune system strength, even if you have high stats, you will get to stage 2 and vomit in just a few bites of this rotten apple. Now while it is still possible to eat rotten fruit, vegetables and mushrooms, it is ridiculous how long you have to wait between each bite, so it's a much better idea just to convert them to burnt using a fireplace, which is far less toxic while providing more nutritional benefits. So with any burnt fruit, vegetable or mushroom, you can get 6 bites and then you have to wait for this icon to disappear, and then you take another 6 bites and just repeat this cycle. If these 4 stats are extremely low though, eat no more than 3 bites per icon disappearing. If your immune system is fully stacked though, or if you're using multivitamins, you can get away with 9 bites per sick icon. This is only for burnt vegetables, fruits and mushrooms though. Don't do this with anything else, because if you do push it and you do vomit, you will lose a lot more nutritional value than any other food can give you in the game, burnt or rotten. And never use this method with meat, fat, gasoline or consuming with bloody hands. You are almost guaranteed to vomit each time due to how toxic these are. Let me know your take on these changes, or if you have any questions. It took me forever to do these tests, so a like is very much appreciated. Thank you very much for watching and have a good day.